given. And this is an interesting situation where he has, it looks, and again, I'm just going off the video. It looks like the cops are trying to find a way to go through a fishing expedition in order to nail him for something that they couldn't directly nail him on.
Story. I want to tell you a story about how the town of Gilbert is trying to get access to my emails, notes, source lists, IP address, everything, without charging me with a crime, mind you. Now,
this would be doing discovery on someone before you accuse them, which is tantamount to saying, I don't have enough to prosecute this guy on. That's the reason why I'm doing this video. There's no way I would ever support that.
Now, they haven't succeeded yet, but I'm fighting it in court right now with the help of some lawyers. Here's what's happening and why they're just wrong.
And by the way, sorry to keep it interrupting, but remember when I told you there are kingpin channels who have access to attorneys and know how to stay out of trouble? This is a kingpin channel. And as you can see, he's always looking very wisely to find what the limits are, as opposed to being like that auditor I did yesterday on, South Carolina Post Office.
Threats I'd received from Mesa cops online, in emails, and in the comments on some of my live streams. And I said that I would defend myself. I made conditional threats to nobody specifically, just generalized threats that if I was attacked illegally, I would defend myself.
Now, see what he said there? Attacked illegally, because there would be no immunity for a cop to do something that goes outside the immunity of his job.
24, Gilbert asked Commissioner Jackie Ireland of the Maricopa County Superior Court for a warrant for broad access to my Google account from June 1st to July 17th, 2023.
Okay, now let me just explain a few things about this. Let me get to the spot. A commissioner is not a judge in the sense that they have the title of judge. They have the same powers of a judge, except for limited circumstances. But commissioners are hired by the local court judges, waiting for an appointment by the governor. And an appointment by the governor would be, you'd get your judicial office. Now, again, this is California, not Arizona revised statutes. It's not legal advice. This is just me talking about a public issue. Now, here, the Gilbert Police Department has received information, that's vague, the offense of Arizona revised statutes, unauthorized acts of criminal history, use of electronic communication to terrify, intimidate, threaten, or harass, use of third party to publish, distribute personal information for intended harassment was committed sometime between these dates and these dates. So what they're trying to say is, oh, this is really a very narrow application of an unauthorized search, because we're only going to limit it to just these days. We're not asking for everything way before that and way after it. We're just looking for a limited. Don't be fooled. Okay. A generalized body cavity search of people's personal records is just as important if it's for one day as it is for a year. It doesn't matter. So that's the first thing that you would be looking at is invalidating the search warrant. Now, I haven't heard that they did that, but I'll show you in California how I did that. And this is Google's, Amphitheater Parkway. I've sent many Google subpoenas there, maybe more than 100. I know some of the lawyers there, and I'll go through that next. And it says any and all records regarding the identification of user with the Google ID, blah, 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 to include name and address, date, account created, account status, Google. Okay. Now look what this says. Which property, persons, or things constitutes evidence tending to show that a public offense has been committed or tending to show that unknown suspects have committed the offense. In California, you would automatically attack that as an overstatement, overbroad application. It needs to be specific, and I mean real specific, not tending to show. Okay. So let's continue.
Warrant for broad access to my Google account from June 1st to July 17th, 2023. Google did alert me April 1st. They'd comply unless I stopped it. So I hit up some lawyers and filed a special action in the Superior Court for relief with Judge Schwartz on April 22nd, 2024 to block it.
Normally that would be a motion to quash.
Denied it September 6th, saying that it didn't fit the rules, which is wrong. I appealed September 20th, and it's now in the Arizona Court of Appeals Division 1 as of February 22nd, 2025. Now, the town of Gilbert claims I'm a suspect under the Privacy Protection Act, which says they can't search journalists' stuff unless I commit a crime tied to the material. They say I broke laws on unauthorized access to criminal history and harassment of some sort on the internet by posting a bulletin about myself, and somehow I accessed a criminal database that only the government has access to, or employers with the ability to do background checks, neither of which I am. So essentially they're saying I hacked in and got it, or I honestly don't know how that works, to be honest with you, because it's an administrative charge that really only applies to government officials or people who have access to it, not me. I just got a bulletin and shared it. The second one's about threatening people. Posting a bulletin about myself isn't a threat. It says they can't search journalists.
Notwithstanding the other law, it shall be unlawful for a government officer or employee in connection with the investigation or prosecution of a criminal offense to search for or seize any work product materials possessed by a person reasonably believed to have a purpose to disseminate to the public communication affecting interstate
stuff.
But this provision shall not impair the ability of any government officer to search for or seize such materials if,
unless I commit a crime.
and it probably if it's that's actually the crime itself. But it does have a provision here for work product.
Suspect under the Privacy Protection Act, which says they can't.
And this section is work product materials. And that's because the work product is necessary for the defense of the person being accused. But getting through work product is tough.
Crime that my emails would be associated with. You can't even tie the charges that you're claiming to investigate me on to an actual crime that I have committed. Nothing. The town of Gilbert's got no case. So they smear me, saying I've got bad history and have abused lawyers in the past based on one judge's unproven ruling from 2023.
Here's an example of a subpoena I served on Google. And in 2017, I wanted records from this clown named Charles Blakely. And you can see, you can write it out hastily. Then you ask for Google to give you specific types of records with definitions, and then you give them categories of documents. You know, this is the stuff I wanted regarding this guy. And they complied. And so here are some of the people I was suing for defamation. And I wanted to know who they were because they made, you know, defamatory comments. And then Google will do what's called Google objections. And this is a prefab, it's already built into the document. That way they don't miss one. And then what they do is after they give you all of these objections, they'll say something like, additionally, you should wish to see, should you wish to seek additionally, please meet and confer. Because the reason is because you can seek attorney's fees. And meet and confer, by the way, is mandatory anyway before you file a motion to enforce the subpoena. So nothing new there. Something I did in 2013, I just want to show, this is California, not Arizona, but to give DirectD some input on it. This is how I invalidated a search warrant and ordered the return of property. My client had a lot of money seized, and it was for being impermissibly overbroad. And the method of execution of the search warrant was unreasonable and lacked probable cause and violated state or federal constitutional standards. They're in the Ninth Circuit like I am, so these would be kind of the things you'd be looking at. And here I said overbroad, be invalidated. Seized property may be returned to person entitled to possession of it. The court has authority to release the property by virtue of court's inherent power to control its abuses. That's section also 128.5. Make a motion for return of property. The method of execution was a violation of federal or state constitutional standards. And this is what you're looking at here. Now, the search warrant would have to include an affidavit signed under oath that gives the judge the probable cause that they're looking for. Okay. The method of execution was a violation of state law, federal law. So there's an affidavit, you look at the affidavit, you scrutinize it. Is it proper the way it was written? And is the search warrant proper in the way it was written? A general knowledge These are cases for direct D. Now, these are California cases, but you would shepherdize these for the analogous Arizona cases, all right? The general knowledge that was engaged in a crime would not justify seizure of items that might be used in crime. Well, that's exactly what's going on here with the Google account. They're going after him. Neither would seizure of an item be justified because it might reveal something. The ultimate fishing expedition. It says the general rule is that only property described in the warrant may be seized under the warrant. Okay, so what was actually identified? If it appears that the property taken is not the same as described in the warrant, the magistrate must cause it to be restored to the person from whom it was taken. These are really great cases, guys, you know. Although the warrant allows the seizure of funds and bank accounts, the amount of the seized monies from his business was not sufficiently described on the face of the warrant. Even having to describe the money, so you just don't take it all. The point is that the cops aren't allowed to have unfettered discretion in what they can take from you as part of the warrant. That's the check and balance on the warrant. Items seized must fit the description. The police are not entitled to seize all items they believe are related to criminal activity as the law imposes limits on police discretion. People versus Murray. You know, they seized 67 TVs and the judge was like, wait a minute, how do you know those TVs were even involved? It's not the same as you find a television as, you know, missing serial numbers and stuff. This is just general merchandise. You just can't take that too. Penal code demands reasonable particularity, and this requirement is held to be satisfied if the warrant imposes a meaningful restriction upon the object to be seized. Nothing should be left to the discretion of the officer. So let's go back to the warrant and ask yourself, does that warrant, again, in California, not Arizona, does that warrant leave too much discretion to the cops? Whether the description of the warrant is sufficiently definite is a question of law. That is a pure question of law that the judges can make. These are insufficient descriptions: books, records, accounts, bank statements, you know, any and all records, evidence of indebtedness. Remember what they wrote in the warrant for direct E? Any evidence that tends to show that there is a crime that's been committed. Well, that would be totally disallowed in California. And California is a pretty liberal state. So I would think that Arizona's got the same kind of laws that ought to be. You search these laws under LexisNexis, and then you pull the analogous Arizona cases. Against this backdrop, one only has to review the face of the warrant to see it was exceedingly and improperly read. The reviewing judges agreed with me and invalidated the warrant. I filed a motion to unseal records that were used as part of the search warrant, and that also won. And these are under the California rules of court, but Arizona has its own rules of court. So again, I would be looking at analogous rules. I had to redact the crap out of it. This was the check. After I got the warrant invalidated, they had to write a check for all the money they seized. Game, set, match. All right, so it's time to give you a couple of lawyer jokes. This lawyer had a pet buffalo named Bessie, and Bessie was in the trailer and they were driving down the highway when a drunk driver collides into the car. The lawyer gets thrown into the ditch. Bessie gets thrown into another ditch. The lawyer can hear that poor Bessie's in bad shape and he's not feeling too good either. Highway patrolman wanders onto the scene and sees poor Bessie and he feels absolute sympathy for her and is kind of trying to comfort her, but he knows there's no way to save her. She's too far gone. So reluctantly, he takes out his service revolver and shoots her, but she dies instantly. As he's feeling terrible, he walks across the road and then he sees the man there and he feels very bad for him as well. And he says, I'm sorry about your buffalo, but she was in a lot of agony and I had to shoot her. I hope you're not upset with me. He goes, no, I understand. I deal with tough situations. I get it. You know, I'm a lawyer and, you know, there's times when I have to confront crisis as well. And then the highway patrolman looks at him and says, you're an attorney? Yeah. And the lawyer looks at him again and goes, well, why does that matter? And then the highway patrolman pulls out his gun, aims it at the lawyer and says, are you sure you're feeling okay? All right, one last one. There's this engineer and he goes to the pearly gates and he sees St. Peter. St. Peter looks into the book of life and goes, sorry, your name's not here. You're going to the other place. Engineer goes, I'm going to hell? Yes. So engineer transported right to hell and there's Satan. Get your ass in here. Engineer's looking around and he's mad because everything is, first of all, is broken. I mean, it is hell. So he goes on just a crazy thing, and he just starts fixing all the toilets because they're all clogged. Then he starts making the escalators work, and he installs elevators. Then he starts connecting bridges. And then he figures out how to quell the heat so that it keeps getting reduced to a smaller and smaller temperature. And now God can hear nothing but laughter coming from hell. So God zaps Satan and goes, "What's going on down there? It sounds like you guys are having a party." Satan says, "Well, quite frankly, you sent us that engineer. He's been amazing. The toilets work, the electricity works, the elevators work, the escalators work. He's even reduced the temperature. He keeps finding new ways to do it." He goes, "It's actually becoming quite nice down here. We're having a good time." And the God says, no, this can't be. Send him back." And Satan goes, "No, I'm not partying with this guy. We're keeping him." And then God says, "Oh, really? Well, I'll take you to the heavenly court." And then the devil says, "Well, I'm not too worried about that either." He goes, "Why?" He goes, "Where are you going to find any lawyers to represent you?" Hope you enjoyed the video.